All right, let's talk Dallas Cowboys. I'm Nick, and this is an emergency episode of our Cowboys show. Trade deadline edition, guys. It has been news a-buzzing. It has been a crazy day. There was the expectation of at least one move. It was walked back a little bit by Jerry after the disappointing loss last night, but things have gone full swing in the other direction. It's been a flurry of stuff for the Dallas Cowboys, and listen, I'm reacting to it basically live as much as you guys are as well. Posting this out there. Want to hear from you guys in the comments section. All thoughts you have, grades, ideas, thoughts, processes the Cowboys are using, things you don't like, things you do. Let me know in the comments section. Let's light it up and chop it up over the bye week to figure out what the Cowboys are doing and what it means going forward. So before we get into the trades and the details, I think there were three criteria I had for the Cowboys heading into the trade deadline that I wanted them to hit. First, only focus on areas of need, right? Let's not go get a wide receiver. Let's not go get a backup guard or something like that, or a running back, right? I don't think they ever would have, but let's avoid that. Focus on areas of need, which obviously would be defense, of course. Number two, let's not get any one-year rentals. I don't want a Von Miller. I don't want a Demario Davis, who Von Miller, I think, still can do good things. Demario Davis can do good things for the Saints, but let's not get 35-year-old one-year rentals, right? Let's focus on where this team is heading for 2026 and 2027. Let's keep that in mind with every single potential deal that the Cowboys look into. And the third criteria I had is don't mortgage the future, right? Don't get in a situation where you throw your entire draft capital away, spend $100 million on a player, don't go all in on one player kind of thing. And that would have been hard to do, but it could have been possible, right? There are some teams that I think probably were asking for that. The Bengals with Hendrickson, maybe the Raiders with Crosby, that were asking for, reports of like multiple first round picks and multiple players, kind of rumors circulating around. I would be a little cautious of that. So with that in mind, let's get into the trades that happened today for the Dallas Cowboys. And the big one first, I'm going to use Spot Track as a source here because they got all the numbers, no biases, no opinions, just raw data, and then we can chop it up, breaking it down. So the Cowboys acquire all-pro defensive lineman Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets, who is a heck of a football player. This kid is a beast. He's been a beast day one for New York, coming out of Alabama, was great at Alabama. I mean, you talk about an A-plus player, run game, pass game, great athlete, physical force. I mean, he's an all-pro. He's great, phenomenal. And the Jets got from Dallas in return a 2027 first-round pick, a 2026 second-round pick, and Mozzie Smith. In terms of cap hit against the Cowboys, they will have $8.4 million against them the rest of this season, $21 million next year, and $25.5 million the following year. The Jets will obviously take smaller cap hits, of course, acquiring Mozzie Smith, and then some dead cap hits there at the bottom from the Jets from the deal of Quinnen Williams, from some guaranteed money they threw at the defensive tackle on an extension they gave him not too long ago. All right, when you look at the picks Dallas surrendered, the first-round pick in 2027, that's been reported to be whichever one is better between Dallas's first-round pick and Green Bay's first-round pick. So obviously that's a tough pill to swallow in some ways. But if you look at what they gave up and what they got, I mean, guys, this is an A-plus trade. This really is. I mean, you always want to get good football players. You always want to add as many good football players on your team as possible, right? Ideally, young players, ideally in their prime players, and ideally not ridiculously expensive. And Quinnen Williams, he's a great football player. He's in his prime. He's 27 years old, and he's not ridiculously expensive. He's not cheap, right? Great players don't come cheap, but he's not, resetting the bank, right? This isn't Micah Parsons' $40 million, right? This isn't $38 million or anything like that. He comes at a cap hit, if you look at those numbers, hitting them in 22 million, basically in 26, 25 and a half, and 27. So not cheap at all, but not breaking the bank. It doesn't destroy the entire cap structure. And again, they only gave up their 2027 first, one of them, and their only second round pick this upcoming draft, and Mozzie Smith. Listen, nothing against Mozzie Smith as a player, as a person, but the reality was, right, he was essentially a non-factor. He was a healthy scratch, right? A lot of football games this year. He hasn't really done much his entire career. So I wish him the best with the Jets. Hopefully he turns his career around. I'll be rooting for him. I'm sure a lot of you guys will too, but I just think, listen, this trade was essentially a 27 first, a 26 second for Quinnen Williams, which for an all-pro, I mean, that's more than a fair price. Listen, this guy's a great football player. When you look at the deal and everything that goes into it, I know the big concern, of course, is, they already have two starting defensive tackles that are pretty good, and Osa Odighizuwa and Kenny Clark, right? Now they've got a third one. Does this mean they go 3-4? Do they mix it up with their defensive structure? Gives them a lot of optionality. I think Quinnen Williams, for sure, is starting day one. I think you get Osa Odigizua playing primarily in pass rush situations, so you unleash him at his best. Kenny Clark plays a lot of run situations. Maybe get some situations, maybe there's some situations where you rest Quinnen Williams for a few plays and you have Clark and Osa Odigizua on the field as sort of your second team defense. And maybe there's some situations where, you have Quinnen Williams with Ryan Clark, and that's, a more run defense approach. I mean, it's the best defensive line group I think the Cowboys have had interior wise. I mean, I can't remember a time. Even the heyday of, Ratliff, Marcus Spears, Chris Canty. I mean, that was a really good group. I mean, I think this is better, right? Quinnen Williams is better than any of those three guys for sure. Osa Odigizua and Ryan Clark, Kenny Clark. Listen, I think they're just as good, if not better than those guys. So this is the best structure of an interior defensive line since, the 2006, 2007, 2005, that defense kind of group. So outstanding there for the Dallas Cowboys. Guys, this is just an A+ trade. I mean, there's no other way to look at this except, I'm trying to think of ways where it's negative, right? I'm trying to think of, okay, what is the catch? What is the problem? Because they still have both their first round picks in 2026, right? So they've got the ammo in terms of getting young players. I mean, the only concern is again, well, you still need an edge rusher, and I think they do for long term. But listen, we saw it last night. Ezra Raku and Clowney as your starting edges. That gets the job done for this season. And Ezra Raku's long term. You can worry about a long term edge when you go into the draft where you have 2 first round picks. So theoretically, you draft a first round pick defensive end, and you have them work behind Clowney if he comes back. If not, you have the first round pick, and you have Ezra Raku at 1 defensive end, 3 great interior defensive linemen, and then you've got a first round pick on the other, right? I mean, that's about as good as you get from a starting group perspective. The Jets were in a big fire sale, right? If you guys hadn't heard, they traded Sauce Gardner for 2 number ones and wide receiver Mitchell, who hasn't really lived up to the hype so far in his career. Again, hope he turns it around with the Jets too. One of the things with these players, whether it's Smith or Mitchell, you always kind of root for them to turn it around and figure things out, because it's one of those things. Listen, I was like I talked about before, I played college football, but I wasn't a very good college player. I was a much better high school player than I was in college, and I kind of feel for guys like Mozzie Smith, because although Smith, first round pick, better hype, more money, of course, than I ever got, but I do feel for guys when you go to the next level and you disappoint based on your own expectations. So I do hope Mozzie Smith and Adonai Mitchell, they turn it around in New York. Wish them nothing but the best. But I do feel like the Jets, I mean, they got a lot of draft picks, right? They got 3 number ones and a number 2 today. So there's a lot of, hey, the Jets got a lot of draft capital. Great for them. But I do think they went overboard with that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the long term they'll prove right. But you never want to go too whole hog into, we're going to get 1 million first round picks and 1 million second round picks. Because the reality is you actually need good football players. Picks give you a probabilistic chance to get good football players, right? That's what a first round pick essentially is, at a lower price, right? So it's one of those things. You like having first round picks. You like having a lot of them. But the reality is you also need good football players. If you have literally a team full of first round picks, you may have only 16 football players, right? A first round pick is realistically a 50% chance of a good football player. So if you have a team full of first round picks, 32 first round picks on your team, you got 16, if you have every first round pick in a draft, you have 16 good football players. And listen, that's good, but that's not a full roster, right? So you want to have some stars, you want to mix it up. And right here, the Cowboys, they got a great one in Quinnen Williams. I mean, I think there's no doubt about it. The usage is going to be interesting. I think the situations they put him in is going to be very telling. But again, he's going to be on contract through 2027, right? And if that's 2.5 years. That's the big thing for me. This isn't a 1-year rental. It's not a 1.5-year rental, right? This is a player that's going to be with the Dallas Cowboys most likely for the next 2.5 seasons. And he is the anchor of this defensive line. They got their future edge star in Ezra Raku, who's becoming that player. They got key players that can do some good things, and Osa Odigizua and Kenny Clark. And now they've got their interior anchor, right? And they've got their anchor at linebacker with Overshown returning into the fold. So, and that leads us kind of into the second trade, if we're just going to go ahead and jump right into that. And again, I apologize if I'm a little not as prepared as I normally am, because I'm kind of I'm reacting to this live. I'm trying to just get my bearings and figure out what the heck's going on here. So again, from Spot Track, real numbers here, just focusing on no biased information, just raw data. The Cowboys got from the Cincinnati Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson, sent a 7th-round pick. You can see the cap hits that Dallas will take this year, a little less than 3. Next year, about 6.5. The following year, about 7.2. Again, it meets all my criteria. It's not a 1 year rental. He's under contract through 2027. He's not, he's 29, but he's not on the wrong side of 30. He actually came into the NFL the same time as guys like Terrence Steele and Trayvon Diggs. So if you're looking for a frame of reference for his playing maturity and his age, he's that kind of player. Listen, he's fallen off from where he was a really, really nice linebacker, 2021 through 2023 for the Cincinnati Bengals, had some injuries in 24, disappointing 2025. The Bengals basically benched him. They thought he wasn't playing up to their standards. They went with 2 rookie linebackers who have been absolutely awful, right? If you look at Shamar James, imagine Shamar James without any of the playmaking and all season and 2 of them, right? That's what the Bengals have turned out the linebacker position. They said, listen, we're going to go young and we're going to see what happens. And they didn't play Logan Wilson. A lot of Bengals fans, if you look at Bengals social media, they say, listen, Wilson was a good player. He's fallen off some, but he can still do some good things. Jerry Jones mentioned in a call today, hey, listen, we like his ability as a run fit. I think that makes the most sense to me. I think he is the stabilizing influence in this linebacking core now, and not just for the rest of this season, but for the next 2 seasons, most likely, at least through 2026. And again, this trade happened first, by the way, for those of you who are kind of late to the party today, is that the Bengals traded Logan Wilson to Dallas first thing in the morning, like 7:30 in the morning my time, and then the trade with Quinnen Williams happened later. And I think the order of it really mattered, because I think the Cowboys understood when they looked at their draft picks, they were more than willing to add a second-round pick to the deal for the Jets to get Quinnen Williams if they knew they had a stabilizing linebacker, because they're betting correctly. Overshown's going to be the anchor. He's going to be one of their starters, but they need a stabilizing middle linebacker to be the other guy in a 2 linebacker set. You can have your outside linebacker be a Leafau or whoever, right, in those kind of situations, but you're going to need a guy that can line up, who can play the run, first and second downs. And listen, maybe going forward, you look at a guy like Wilson, he's the first and second down linebacker. Third down, bringing a Shamar James to blitz and play out in space maybe. Maybe that's what the Cowboys do, right? Maybe that's what they become in the rest of this season and for years to come, which plays to Shamar James' strength. And listen, let's Logan Wilson maybe do a little bit more what he's better at in certain situations. So I like this deal. I don't love this deal for the Cowboys with Wilson. I think what it really gave them is it opened up the option to trade their second-round pick for the 26th draft. Because going into the offseason, right, if they hadn't made any of these moves, clearly they needed help defensive line, linebacker, 1 linebacker to be, again, like I've mentioned 1,000 times, that stabilizing influence, and probably a safety. The fact that they've added, they traded for Logan Wilson, basically removed linebacker from the need. You got another defensive playmaker in Quinnen Williams inside. You still need a defensive end, and you still probably need a safety. You got 2 first-round picks in 26 to check those boxes, right? And you could obviously trade back. You could trade up. You got some moves there. I don't know what they can do big free agency in the offseason at this point, right? With these contracts and these deals. I think they've got some options, right? They could cap cut Steele, cap cut Diggs, right? Cap cut Hooker. There's a decent chance they hold on to Hooker now, if I'm being honest, and they just restructure Prescott and tag Pickens and then work with the money from there. I think that's the most likely scenario, just because, listen, I don't think Malik Hooker's the best, but I think if you look at their situation right now, if they're going to go young safety, they want to probably have a veteran to pair him with on the back end, if I were to guess, right? That seems to make the most sense, at least to me. But again, you can look at this move here. The process followed the same thing as the Quinnen Williams trade. Both of these guys under contract, not 1 year rentals, position of need. And listen, if you look at the price, 7th round pick, listen, that's a good value. Low risk, high reward for sure. 7th round pick. I mean, 99% of 7th round picks become nothing. A lot of them don't even make the final roster. They become practice squad guys out of the NFL in a year or two. So listen, this was a good trade right here. I think the Quinnen Williams trade to me is an A+. This to me is a sort of just a B- kind of trade, but a necessary B- kind of trade, because it opened up the options for the future. And I think that's where the Cowboys see right now when they look at their team, right? Obviously at 3-5-1, we can be realistic here, right? Especially how deep the NFC is. They're probably not going to be a playoff team this year, right? Even if they get hot, even if they win a lot of games, the schedule is brutal. First-year coordinator, a lot of new pieces, first-year coordinators on both sides, but they're set up extremely well now for 2026 and 2027, because now they go into the offseason with a couple very clear needs and a very clear path with their first-round picks to address them. So they're set up wonderfully with these 2 moves. That's why I love these moves specifically, is that it has made the deck so clear for them in the offseason. It's made them better this year for sure, right? Undeniably so. Really great player in Williams, a key player in Wilson here, who, again, just by replacing Shamar James, let's say on first and second down, running down situations, Shamar James, which I've been hyping up James. He's been playing very poorly. Makes me look kind of stupid, to be honest, but I still believe he can do some good things in the right situations, and maybe he can grow and develop. I think if you have Wilson here, take Shamar James. Shamar James has been like a D minus player in a lot of these situations. Even if Wilson's a C minus player at this point in his career, that's still a noticeable upgrade, right? And you throw in Overshown, that's a noticeable upgrade. Suddenly the linebacker group goes from being really bad, one of the worst in football, to, hey, they're actually okay, right? And they got some playmaking, right? So I think the linebacking room got better this year, got better for the future. Defensive line obviously got better. So a lot of good stuff there. Let's pull this up because I think it's an interesting talking point. It's going to be something to discuss over the upcoming days, weeks, months, and probably years. Nick Harris at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram wrote, in essence, the Cowboys gave up Micah Parsons, a 26 second-round pick, and Mozzie Smith to acquire Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and a 26 first-round pick, which, listen, if we're being totally honest, that's a huge win for Jerry. I mean, Jerry Jones got a coup there, right? And obviously there's the cap flexibility aspect, right? But we're going to put that aside and just look at this and say, listen, a first-round pick's better than a second-round pick, so win for Dallas, right? And then Quinnen Williams, is he as impactful as Micah Parsons? We'll say not. We'll say he's 90% of that. Kenny Clark more than makes up the difference. So it's at least a fair trade for Dallas, if not a win for Dallas, right? And I think, look, give Jerry Jones a lot of credit where we sit today, right? I think it's a good job. I mean, listen, it's still, time will tell, right? Obviously, the Packers may win a championship or two, and they'll look great, and Dallas could stink or play great, right? You just don't know, right? The records will speak for themselves, but the way things look today, 4th of November, looks like they did pretty well with this trade, right? And that's really all you can ask for. And I just want to kind of end on this image here. Again, this is a bonus episode, right? Not a full podcast. There'll be a lot of discussions, a lot of deep dives tomorrow as we can think about this more and compile more information here. But this is from Joseph Hoyt. He's talked about the potential Cowboys defense in their next game against the Raiders on November 17th. You'll have defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, Oso Dikizua, defensive ends Ezra Rocco and Clowney, linebackers Logan Wilson and DeMarvin Overshown, cornerbacks Deron Bland, Kyrie Elam, and Reddy Stewart, safeties Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson, and of course you got some question marks potentially with guys like Revel potentially getting into the fold as well as a potential corner to come into the mix. And then, of course, there's the looming specter of Trayvon Diggs also potentially returning at some point from injury this season, maybe as well, although I'm not going to hold too much into that until he actually starts playing again and feels comfortable. So, but there is still that option, of course. But if you look at this defense and just compare it to what we saw last night, I mean, it's a different linebacking core. I mean, Quinnen Williams, you add an all-pro up front, right? You get safety, Donovan Wilson, no. But Malik Hooker is better than Bell, for sure. Not even close. That's not even debatable. Malik Hooker's had a rough season, but Marquise Bell, I think he's disappointed in the playing time he's gotten this season. I think Hooker is definitely an upgrade, for sure. And it's just a better group. Now, does it guarantee success? No, of course not, but it's a better group. The Cowboys certainly got a lot better, and they didn't mortgage their future, and they will be better for years to come. And I think that's the big takeaway here. One of the things about the Amari Cooper trade that was really successful is that it set them up for future success, right? They had a lot of really good offenses with Amari Cooper, right? It wasn't a one-year rental. The Roy Williams trade from a few years prior to that was a disaster. Of course, it didn't work out, but it was the same kind of process where it's like the goal was to be a multi-year guy to pair with Miles Austin. They needed another receiver with Austin. They got Roy Williams. It didn't quite work out, of course. But this is a situation here with both of these guys. Wilson, of course, Quinnen Williams, multi-year guys, right? Guys right side of 30. Wilson a little older, but he's, hasn't played in the NFL too long. Both these guys are good leaders, good locker room guys. None of these guys are troublemakers. None of these guys have serious red flags, right? It's not like a TO situation or anything like that. Listen, I think Quinnen Williams, he's an A-plus player. I think Logan Wilson's a C to C-minus player. Maybe he steps up a little bit in a new environment. We'll have to see. But he's an upgrade. He's a stabilizing influence. And the Cowboys got a lot better today, guys. And the Jerry Jones in the front office, they crushed it. I mean, there's no way to evaluate this, whether you hate Jerry or love Jerry, to look at this and say, yeah, they did a great job, right? Because they still have 2 first-round picks in 2026, right? So they still got more than enough draft capital to get better in the offseason. With 2 first-round picks, they could trade back and pick up more picks. They've got a lot of optionality there. They've still got a lot of things in front of them. I mean, they're set up very nicely. They're set up very well for the future. And I'm still looking at the future, right? Obviously, I'm excited to see Quinnen Williams play for Dallas, along with Overshown back into the fold, right? So, again, we're looking at a Dallas defense that, hey, it'd be interesting to watch as opposed to, I don't know if I really want to watch this. So, listen, I think they're a lot better. I like the fact that Dallas took advantage of a Jets team that just decided to sell off their assets. I don't understand that from the Jets' perspective. you get a good player in all pros and Williams and Sauce Gardner, right? It's one thing to sell off sort of middle tier Pro Bowl guys, right? Makes sense, right? Maybe a guy who's a good player but not a great player. But you don't get a lot of Quinnen Williams in the world, right? You don't get a lot of Sauce Gardners, right? Dallas trading Micah Parsons was very controversial. People are divided on that today. Like, oh, was it a good move? Was it a bad move? A lot of people really debate that. But the reality is Dallas, New York basically had two, maybe not as good as Parsons, but two, all-pro caliber young stars, and they decided to trade both of them at once. They basically tore down their entire franchise for basically the next 3 seasons, hoping they can retool through the draft. And listen, if it works out for him, all the power to him. But boy, is that a risky move that I would not want to do. But it goes back to, I think, the Cowboys front office back in August, right, when they traded away Micah Parsons. They wanted the cap flexibility. They extended a lot of guys. They made those extensions. They got those deals done. It cleared the deck, and then they could make moves like this with the deck cleared and with the capital they had. They could then make these moves. And listen, I mean, if you just look at the team with Micah Parsons without Kenny Clark, right, and just think about that for a second here. Look at this defense here. And let's say if it was Mozzie Smith, Oso Digizua, Donovan Ezaraku, Micah Parsons, DeMarvion Overshown, and Kenneth Murray, and then you look at it and you say, okay, now you trade away Micah Parsons, add in Clowney plus a first-round pick. So think of Clowney plus whoever they pick in the first round. Then add Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark and Logan Wilson, and you say it's a more complete team, right? Again, it's one guy, right, Parsons in this case, in the place of Jadeveon Clowney, versus 3 guys, or 4 when you count the first-round pick, and that's the value, right? That's what you do. That was sort of the theme behind the Cowboys trade, was Parsons is great, but they got a lot of holes to plug, and they put themselves in a good spot. And here's the thing, a beautiful thing about Quinnen Williams and the situation there is now if let's say they want to move off early from Kenny Clark, right? They can free up a lot of cap space there potentially, right? They've got a lot of optionality. They're not tied to one position, not tied to one area, and it put them in a really good spot. So this was an A-plus day for Dallas for sure in terms of, getting some good roster moves. And I'm future focused, right? I'm not a big believer in, bringing in short-term rentals, right? That's sort of what the Commanders did, right? Bringing a lot of 30-some-odd-year-old guys to try and make a championship run. Didn't work out for them at all. You look at the Cowboys, they brought in guys, Quinnen Williams, 27, Wilson, 29, right? Specifically Quinnen Williams in their prime, stud player, position of need, side of the ball of need. I mean, just really good job by Dallas. A+ across the board for Williams. I think it's a B- trade here for Logan Wilson, but the process they've used and the approach Dallas used was correct. I think great job there for Jerry Jones, the front office, and the Cowboys. And just one final note, and I think I'm going to probably end on this here. Get your thoughts, of course, below up the comment section. Going to be a talking point for a long time. Is what pressure does this put on Matt Eberflus now as the DC? Right? Do you now grade, depending on what happens the second half of the season, with Overshown back, Revel into the mix, Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson now, do you grade this defense potentially tougher, right, in terms of, performance and how they play on Sundays and Mondays and, just their output going forward? It's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting debate. Definitely something to talk about. Do you get more tough? Do you get stricter on Eberflus if there isn't better performance? I think there's an argument to be made now. It's like, listen, you've got a lot better players. You've got a healthier unit, should play better. And I think that'll provide some clarity there as well. So there's kind of a potentially, extra benefit there of sort of actually give Eberflus a more fair shot. Because I think the argument that I've made, other people have made too, is that there just isn't a lot of talent, right? The talent at linebacker just overnight went from D to D- now to a little bit better. Quinnen Williams is an all-pro, right? Getting healthier at safety. So we're going to have to be a little tougher on Eberflus, I think, going forward based on how this defense plays. But listen, it's a interesting day. It's a fun day for sure. Best trade deadline in terms of activity I've ever seen, at least as a Cowboys fan. Obviously, the Cooper-Roy Williams trade kind of comes to the forefront. Definitely beats Jonathan Mingo, right? I mean, adding him, that was a little bit underwhelming last year. I give credit to Jerry Jones. I mean, love him or hate him, he made a splash today, and we'll see how it works out for Dallas. And listen, I'll be back tomorrow morning as always with a deeper breakdown with all the other news, of course, involving the Cowboys. But until then, I am Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection.